and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jayson Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by the Gametime app.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Big Three NBA podcast. Sherrod's already causing chaos. Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn. I'm Kwani Lunis. I need to shout out Gary right now because he is in France, as you all know, and it is 1 in the morning, 1:13 in the morning, and he still has stuff to do, but he is dedicated enough to be here. So let's just quickly get into it so he can finish everything else he has to do before he goes to bed. Team USA, they cruise over Brazil. Honestly, it wasn't balanced. It wasn't fair when you think about the way Team USA has played, generally speaking. It's not fair to other countries. But Devin Booker, 18 points in 15 minutes. Kevin Durant, 11 points. It actually breaks the all-time leading scorer record in Team USA history, surpassing men and women. So Lisa Leslie had the top spot. He bumped her out of it, but also made sure to thank her online for being a trailblazer in a sense. But let's talk about Jrue Holiday, 9 points, 3 assists in 17 minutes. He's returning after missing a win over Puerto Rico with that ankle injury. But what are your concerns? Obviously, we're a Celtics-centric podcast. We can get into the other two as well. But Jrue Holiday specifically, what are your concerns in the amount of basketball he's been playing the last 2 games, knowing that the Celtics ideally want to go for Banner 19 next season?
Well, the thing about Jrue Holiday is he's shown to be such an important part of the Celtics, frankly, ability to win at the highest of levels. And, you know, when you see him go out with an ankle injury, you don't want to think it's that big a deal. But then you start looking at the birth certificate. You start thinking about the miles on those wheels that he has. And anytime he has to miss any action for any type of health ailment, I think it's reason to pause. And I don't think it's any kind of – certainly it's not a season ending or anything like that type of injury. But you have to wonder at what point do the bumps and bruises that he's used to playing through are going to keep him sidelined? And at what point are the Celtics going to be looking at ways to minimize the amount of wear and tear on his body? Because he's such an important part of what this team does. When you look at what he's able to do, not only as an elite defender, arguably the best on-ball defender in the NBA, but also what he brings to the table from a scoring standpoint when it absolutely matters most, which is the playoffs. So Jrue's situation is one that if you're the Celtics, you know, you're not nervous Nelly about it, but you're definitely paying attention to how his body's responding, and you definitely want to give some thought to how you're going to manage, the wear and tear that his body is going to go through during the regular season.
Yeah, I'm not as really concerned. I think he's been a very durable player. Do you want him playing? And I don't think anybody plays major minutes in the Olympics at this point. And we could talk about Jayson's situation, soon. But to me, I think he'll be fine. It's only 2 more games left. So I think he'll get plenty of rest. He'll get a whole month off, month plus before training camp starts, and I think he'll be fine. You can't take away the Team USA experience from anyone. A lot of guys want to play, so there's really nothing that teams can do to stop their players from playing for their country. So Jrue's a guy who likes being part of this team. The team really likes him. Steve Kerr loves him and Derek White. So, because either of them are in the game at all times, he loves that defense that both play that combination. So I don't think it's a reason for concern. I think it had been a gold medal game or medal game. I was told Jrue could have played that game against I think it was Puerto Rico, and they didn't need help against Puerto Rico anyway. So I think it's fine. The one thing about the Olympics, it's not like they're playing 15 or 20 games. They're playing 6 in this tournament, and then, the 5-game exhibition. So you're talking about 11 games. So I think after this coming weekend, he'll go home, rest up. He'll be fine for training camp in a couple of, in about 6 to 8, 7 weeks. So no concerns on my part.
Okay.
I'm glad Jason's getting some rest too.
Yeah, let's get into it. Gary, you're on the ground. What have you been seeing from the Celtics in general? Well,
I just think it's a situation where Jayson isn't playing well. He seems kind of cursed, to be honest. Like when he gets a layup, it rolls out. I think he had a dunk. He missed it. Not the one at the end of the half that was from LeBron. That was a really nice dunk.
Yeah,
but it just seems like when he's trying to do something like that resembles Jayson from, this season and throughout his career, it just ain't working. And maybe that's just lack of playing time. Maybe that's just mental at this point. He just seems a step slow. He's yet to hit a three-pointer in the Olympics. He's just not – he's trying to do the little things. And I know guys have to change in the Olympics, but it just seems like he's just not himself. And he's just kind of maybe understands that, hey, I'm just not a big part of this team like I was in 21 in Tokyo, where he was the second best player on Team USA during that time. He helped them get that gold medal with that, getting that win over France. But this time, there's just so many other guys. I just think the presence of LeBron makes a difference. Steph makes a difference. And then you got Joel Embiid. So 3 guys that are major players that were not on Team USA 3 years ago. And then you got, Jrue and Derek are playing well. Then you also have the presence of Devin Booker. And it's obvious Kerr has a liking for Booker and playing major minutes. So it just seems like this might not be the Olympics for Jayson. Now, does that mean he'll say, I ain't playing in LA? I doubt it. I think he'll continue to play. But I just think roles change. Sometimes guys have big impacts in the Olympics. Sometimes they don't. And maybe Jayson in these last 2 games will make a big play, make a big shot, or have a big game and kind of make hope that he can forget about the experience. I know he just isn't very happy right now. He's trying to deal with it, and he understands, but he just feels like probably, the chemistry of this team and how it's put together, it just might not be Jayson's time.
But Gary, I get you and I and Kwani, all of us, we've seen a lot of basketball. I've never seen a player relatively young, the second best scorer on your team, comes back 4 years later, doesn't have injuries, doesn't have anything. In fact, he's literally at the peak of his success to go from your second best scorer to DMPCD. Something doesn't feel right about that. And I know that there's some incredibly talented players on this team. I know that. I get that. But something feels really wrong when a guy just won a championship, was a leading scorer on that team, was all NBA, not second team, not third team, but first team. And he's not even coming off the bench. He's not playing. He has become basically the Team USA ML Carr, waving a towel, trying to cheer the troops on. Gary, I'm telling you now.
What's going on in Paris?
Tatum is going to have an 82-game revenge tour. I'm going to put it, Gary, I'm going to put it out here right now. I am all about Jayson Tatum for league MVP this year because he is going to come into the season with a ridiculous amount of motivation to prove everyone wrong.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised when they play Golden State if he puts up 30 in the first half. He's going to be, I think, just a different kind of player when we get to the regular season. Because you better believe right now there are people questioning whether Jayson Tatum is overrated, whether Jayson Tatum, is he really that guy? I mean, first, Jaylen Brown gets Eastern Conference Final MVP, then NBA Finals MVP. Now Jayson Tatum goes to the Olympics, and he's Mr. DMPCD. And the only time he gets run is when the game is out of reach. Is he overrated? That is going to be a question. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't believe he's overrated. In fact, I think right now he's going to go into this season and is going to have the best season of his career. Because he's going to be coming into the season with a level of motivation he's never, ever had before. Think about this. This dude has never been at the end of anybody's bench. And yet he is that guy. He's the 11th man. Only one behind him is my man from Indiana. That's it. Something ain't right about that, G. I'm sorry. Some just don't feel right about that.
So it sounds like personal, and Gary, you're thinking it's strictly basketball related. Is that the case?
I don't think it's – I think there might be a situation where Kerr is playing favorites. Like, he loves Derek White and Jrue Holiday. Okay, we know that. They're getting run. Derek's getting more run than Jayson. He has a liking for Devin Booker. Okay, Jason's kind of – then you got to bring back Kevin Durant. Where do you play him? Because you got to give KD his run, right? So, and you got to give LeBron his run. So, and Jayson, you could try to play Jayson at center, but you've already got Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, and Bam Adebayo playing that position. So to me, it's a lot of guys here. And Jayson, Jayson did not deserve a DNP, obviously, but he's also not playing well. We watched Jayson for years, watched him his whole career. He's out there thinking, right? I could just tell. He's not just, boom, let me go to the basket. He's thinking. He's trying to make it happen. Okay, let me maneuver my way. Let me get – and it's just, no, man, like, just hoop. Get out of your own head. I just think he's in his own head right now. The shot isn't going down. He's missing shots he usually hits. He's missing layups. A couple times he's gotten stripped getting to the basket or lost the ball. I just don't – if you look at his numbers, he's just not playing well. He's averaging like 6 points a game. He hasn't hit a three. I just think it's mental, but I also think that DNP, I think he was like, what the hell's going on here? And I think he probably, when he went to Paris, he probably had an impression of how it was going to go, and it hasn't gone like that. It is still KD and LeBron. It's still their team. You bring LeBron back, that's a whole personality. It's his team. He is Team USA, even though he hasn't been there in 12 years. You bring in Steph. He's got to get his run. And that's not Jayson's position, but you're talking about guys who are taking chunks. When you add three players, Embiid, Steph Curry, and LeBron to a team, it's Jayson's no longer the first guy, the primary option, or one of them, right? LeBron is. Steph, you got to get – Steph's not having a great tournament, but you got to get him shots. They're trying to get Embiid going. So they ain't worried about Jayson. Jayson got to get himself going. Jayson needs, in these last two games against Serbia and whoever they play, obviously likely the gold medal game against France or Germany, he's got to find his own way. This is on him. And I just think I think he'll be up to the challenge. Don't sulk. Don't look upset. I can't wait till we get home, all that. No, man, hoop. Find your way, or whether it would be 8 assists, get 10 rebounds. If it's not scoring, find a way, make some defensive plays. I'm not saying he's not doing that. He's doing all the little things, but block shots. But, I know he defines himself sometimes by his offense, and I know he wants to score more. So maybe he's got to find it with himself because he's not going to get 35 minutes. It's a 40-minute game, and you got 12 dudes, or you said, Sherrod, 11 without Tyrese Halliburton. Jayson's got to find it, and he's got to find it in whatever increments of time he gets.
This is Sherrod Blakely of the Big Three NBA Podcast. And for those of you who want to get your daily fantasy sports fix on, there is no better place than PrizePicks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. Now, you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. That's right. You can turn $10 into $1,000. So get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on PrizePicks. With PrizePicks, you can turn $10 again into $1,000, which while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer, you can make PrizePicks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. That's really, really quick. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats. projections, and you're locked in. So have some fun, and the thing about PrizePicks, they keep it simple. The experience of playing, really good athletes that you frankly love, and PrizePicks, not only do you get to support them, but you also can make a little cash in the process. So again, download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
All right. Well, Gary, from your perspective, before we talk about Jaylen Brown, because we have a whole section on him in this episode, what has stood out to you in Paris overall, basketball-wise?
It just seems to be a very close team, together team. And the second best team is probably Germany. I think people were talking about France when they get Gobert and Wemby, and that hasn't worked all that well. France has not looked good against Germany. Now they look good against Canada. Everybody was talking about Canada because Canada has literally had 10 NBA players and another guy in their roster played in the NBA, Kim Burke. So they basically 11 NBA players and then a guy who played on the national team before, and they end up losing. They played just a bad game, and it was in Paris, so the refs were going. It was one of those international games you play, and it's a road game. Everybody was cheering for France, and France got a lot of calls. And our friend Gershon Yabusele leads France with 22 points. You can blame the refs, but you also look, and there was three guys. Yabusele, a guy named Cordinier, and another guy named Lesort, who were not NBA players who combined for 55 points. Like Wemby, Batum, Gobert were not good at all. I mean, Evan Fournier, our another friend of ours, had 15 points, but Canada choked it, kind of. I mean, they had their chances. And Jamal Murray didn't look good. So that's a really disappointing finish for Canada because they hadn't made the Olympics since 2000. They've had all this talent over the years, right? The Andrew Wiggins and all these guys have come up the post-Vince Carter age in Toronto, and they finally got all these guys, besides Wiggins, all these guys to agree to play together, and they don't make it out of the quarterfinals. So Germany is a team you're going to need to look out. Our friend Dennis Schroeder, another guy, Daniel Tice.
Yeah, right. Why'd you say Schroeder first? Come on now. You know what it is.
Who?
Tice, baby. Tice, baby.
Oh,
but you said Schroeder first. Yeah. Like we were expecting Tice first and then Schroeder.
Yeah, Tice. I mean, they're a quality team that's played together for a while. So they're going to give, if they meet USA, and they're going to give them some trouble. I mean, USA is good. The only issue is they, like the Celtics, they go through lapses. Against Brazil, they had a bad second quarter. Brazil got within about 7, and then they, blew them out again. You can't have those lapses. You got to lock down against either the three teams. Serbia, Jokic is going to be obviously 3-time MVP. That's going to be a good game. I think they'll play better. Remember, they also have Bojan Bogdanovic from the Atlanta Hawks, who's kind of their shooter. They have Licic, point guard at Oklahoma. I think he's in Charlotte now. So they got some NBA guys. The Team USA should beat Serbia pretty good. But I don't think this is an invincible team when they play right they are. But they can't go through lapses. And I forgot to kind of mention another player for Team USA is taking minutes is Anthony Edwards. So he's playing, he came in the second half. He came in the second half last night against Brazil. He didn't get a lot of major minutes in the first half, and he went up there and got his 16 points. Like, he's like, I'm getting my points. Like, if you're going to put me in during this time of the game against, Brazil or whoever, a team with no NBA players, or one, Santos, who plays two-way for the Warriors, I'm going to get my points. That's what the mentality Jayson needs to have. Like, not saying be selfish, but be assertive.
Well, I think he needs to be a little bit more selfish. I mean, when he gets in a guy, and this is what happens when you get a DNP and you've never had one in your life. It gets in your head. When he's out there, he's thinking, I got to do the hustle plays, the effort plays, and you need to do that. But in Jayson's mind, I think now that's like all he's trying to do. And when he has opportunities to score, he's thinking way too hard about, I need to make this shot. I need to make this dunk. I need. When in fact, he's so used to just relying on just muscle memory and just making the play without giving it any thought. And I blame Steve Kerr for that. I mean, I still, Gary, there's nothing in the world that you or Steve Kerr or anyone can say that can rationalize how you can let the number 2 scorer on the previous Olympic team, the number 1 scorer on the team that just won a championship, to not play a single minute in a game that you blew the team out by 26 points.
Should that be considered tampering in like the opposite way with the NBA? Because like, is he trying to mess with his mentals for the regular season?
I don't know what the hell Steve Kerr was thinking. I just know that there is no way in the world you can subconsciously make that mistake. I mean, I will never, ever, ever understand how that can happen. I mean, you telling me you up by like 20-ish points, you at least give him the courtesy and say, hey, look, do you want to go in now? Because we're 5 minutes left, because if you want to go in now, I'll put you in there. But if not, I totally understand. At least make it seem like you're trying to play the brother. I mean, it is one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen happen to an elite player in their prime. That's embarrassing, man. I mean, Tatum got people in the stands. He got people all the globe thinking that he's hurt. Because I know, Gary, because you asked him, Gary, I think, how was he okay? And he was like, I'm good. And then when I saw that, I was just like, well, if he's good, then what the hell you ain't play for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is nothing. And like I said, Tatum is going to look between. I don't know who's going to be looking to light Golden State up more, Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum. They may both go for 30 in the first half when they play Golden State. They may go for 30. Because with Jaylen Brown, that's a completely different story. But Tatum is absolute unequivocal disrespect. He's earned the right to play in the damn Olympics. He just won a damn championship. He was a leading scorer on a team that just won an NBA title. Steve Kerr is on a different list right now for me, and it ain't a good list. And I suspect that he's on a list with Jayson and Jaylen too. I know that list. Me and Jay Crowder. That's right. The Jay Crowder list.
Suckers.
The sucker
no,
list.
You know what it reminds me of? I'm sorry, Kwani. This might be before your time, but the last season of Different World.
Every time I heard that.
The last season of Different World, where what's her name? Jennifer Lewis was a professor, or she was like the dean or whatever, and she'd be like, "You are on my list," like she would say to all the students cutting up. The last season of Different World, when it was like Dwayne was a professor and all that, it was like it just reminds me. So Sherrod got a list. You are on my list.
I do.
For the record, there's a spinoff in the works for A Different World, and it's going to follow Dwayne and Whitney's daughter. That was announced on Wednesday. Boom.
Oh, around she's going to Hillman.
So in other words, we're going to bring Kwani generation into the mix now.
Exactly.
She's going to learn about that.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the Celtics play Golden State. Ooh.
It's on his list. Circled on the calendar.
It's summertime and there's no better way to spend it than at the ballpark. Popcorn, soda, hot dogs. I'm starting to get hungry just thinking about it. Those games create lasting memories, and getting to those games is a lot easier with Gametime, which is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Now, being a Yankees fan that I am living here in Boston, I know it gets complicated and very uncomfortable from time to time, but keeping an eye on the AL East is a really big deal for me, as you can imagine. I know I can go to the Gametime app and jump on the best deals quickly. The color coding options at the ballpark make it super easy to see what are the best deals for the best seats from all the seats in that particular venue. And you can customize your search options based on your favorite team or your favorite team to watch. The Gametime app makes it super easy to get into the game, and you can't beat Gametime's lowest price guaranteed. And when you're ready to lock up your tickets, Gametime has all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. Hate when that happens. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Ooh,
Well, it's good to hear that Jaylen is not necessarily thinking about that just this moment, because this past week it was announced that his Black Wall Street of Boston plan is officially in the works. And as we've known before, the reporting said that the goal was to generate $5 billion in generational wealth for communities of color, specifically in Boston, after he found out the stat about the Black median Boston household made, I think it was $8.
$8, yeah.
To compare it to the white family in the city. So let's talk about that, because obviously it's not necessarily basketball, but it's something that he's been doing over the last few years. And he launched Boston Creator Incubator Plus Accelerator on August 1st, which is also collaborating with Jrue Holiday and his wife there, Lauren, his wife, also athlete Lauren, and they're JLH Social Impact Fund. And they're going to sponsor 10 entrepreneurs in the greater Boston creative economy. 3-year awards up to $100,000. We'll get also more than 150,000 space in workspaces. A lot of things. There are a lot of things that they get, essentially. And there's a website you can apply at bxchange.org. But what do you two think about this plan and him actually being a man of his word?
Well, I think that's the one thing that I appreciate. I mean, you hear a lot of people talk about, we want to build up community XYZ 1, 2, 3. And you never really see any tangible signs, or you see very few tangible signs with very kind of spotty details of what that looks like. Jaylen Brown has put his money where his mouth is. And that's really important. And it's coming from a guy who hasn't always been, the most loved player on his Celtics team, particularly by this community. And so he's showing, I think, folks that it's not about him. It's about doing for others and having the means to do for others. And I love the fact that he brought Jrue Holiday into the mix, because when you're trying to do these type of really just trying to create generational wealth and bringing about systemic change on a very broad, big picture scale, it can't be done by one person. It has to be multiple people investing in that vision and that dream. And I suspect as this thing kind of plays out over time, you're going to start seeing more people involved in this. And that's how you really bring about change, because change, it may start with one person, but it can't end there. And I think Jaylen understands the importance of building basically allies for this vision to come to fruition. And again, I applaud him for the efforts that he's making. This is not going to be an easy thing to do, because at some point there will be pushback from some folks who think that this is not a good thing for Boston,
if not already.
Right. But Jaylen, the beautiful thing about Jaylen is, one, he's got a contract that's going to keep him in Boston for a while. 2, he's got the economic resources to basically push this through if it hits a financial snag, which is really important. And 3, I think that there's going to be more and more, like I said, more individuals, I think, getting on the bandwagon and supporting these efforts. And the biggest thing that has to happen is there has to be change. There has to be that 1 or 2 breakthrough individuals that can really turn it from being this dream into a reality for not just the folks who benefit directly from these grants, but just for society as a whole. So I give Jaylen lots of props for what he's doing.
I think it's great. It's been a year. since he signed the contract and made that announcement that he was going to work to kind of close the wealth gap, disparity between Black communities and the white community or other underrepresented communities in Boston. And he's putting his money where his mouth is, like Sherrod said, and it's he's got a plan. And instead of coming up with a bunch of ideas and no plan, he took a year and figured out, okay, what's the next thing I can take the step forward? And now this is it. And you've got to applaud him for putting his not only money where his mouth is, but putting a foot in this community, in the Boston community, and saying, listen, I'm going to leave an impact on the floor and off the floor. I'm not going to be one of those players who plays 15 years in the city and offers absolutely nothing off the floor, no community programs. You know, I always am reminded in this situation of like the great Reggie Lewis, the late Reggie Lewis, who put his imprint on the community in the short time when he was at Northeastern, then he was with the Boston Celtics until obviously tragically passed away. But I just think of that, like, you know, obviously we had the Reggie Lewis Center downtown in Roxbury, and he made such an impact. Thanksgiving, turkey giveaways, that type of thing. You know, take a interest. And he was from Baltimore, so it wasn't a guy who was born and raised in Boston. You know, he adopted this city just like Jaylen is, and you have to applaud that, because there's a lot of guys who come into a city, play, and the minute that the season's over, they're back home, and they report the day before training camp starts to that city, and whatever, they're not giving their heart to that city that they play in. And Jaylen's different, and you have to applaud that. You have to applaud his perseverance, all the criticism he took, and people, oh man, you just talking. Well, now you got a plan in action, collaborating with Jrue Holiday, which I think is fantastic. I'm sure other players around the league who might be from Boston or other players in the Celtics and maybe the Celtics organization will eventually get involved with contributing financially to his plan. So a good job for Jaylen. You got to love it. And I know, you know, he was not happy about not making Team USA, even in getting an invite and getting a text message from Grant Hill. He's kind of been going back and forth with Grant Hill with the conspiracy thing. And he says, basically, I know where the bodies are buried. I've been in the Players Association for 5-6 years now. I know how this thing goes. So, you know, I don't think it reflects well on Grant Hill to keep acting like it wasn't something personal. As to why he didn't make Team USA, I think Grant needs to just kind of quit saying that, because obviously it wasn't.
Because we're not dumb.
Yeah, it wasn't basket. It was more than basketball. You got an NBA Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, one of the top players in the league, and he can't even get a sniff. So, but I think for Jaylen to shake that off, I know he went to Spain last week and did the Player Association camp where he works out. He kind of keep it moving and keep his plan going. And he, you know, I'm sure he'll like Jayson. He'll pay some debts back to the people he feels like he needs to when he gets on the floor this coming season. But for him to lock in on that plan, that financial plan, and come up with a cohesive plan, and it took a year. That's how long these things take. It's not 2 or 3 months. I think that's a good, admirable thing from Jaylen Brown.
Me, Jaylen, and Jayson need to compare notes and see who on our list. We need to compare notes and see who on our list.
Sherrod has a list now.
I am legitimately salty.
I know.
I'm so salty about that because it's just not right. It's not right.
Like Double Z says, Sherrod, the world ain't right.
Exactly.
Dale Davis. The world ain't
Dale
right.
Davis used to tell me all the time, Sherrod,
Dale Davis.
World ain't right.
World ain't right.
Look,
always remember that.
I have a shameless plug, but also a flex. I interviewed Matt Damon and Casey Affleck. Not Gary already rubbing his eyeballs and Hong Chow.
Guess what, Kwani?
Did you know that?
I did too.
You did what? You did what?
For the movie that they did.
You interviewed them?
Yeah.
So where is it?
For MD.com. I interviewed them for the movie that they did.
You know what? Gary, did you interview them?
No, I didn't. I got left out off the memo.
Dang, that was leaving Gary off the. Now Gary has a list.
Exactly. Now we're on Gary list.
All right. Well, that being said, because I have to go read it, so I feel like I failed you. But did you talk to them about the Celtics at all? And I'm not saying that to be funny.
Not much.
Okay.
Not much.
Okay.
Because we had to talk about the movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I snuck in a question by mentioning that they had Fenway Park in the movie, but the question was about the Celtics and watching them win Banner 18. If you don't know, Casey and Ben are from Massachusetts, hardcore Boston fans. But one thing that we were talking about was the fact that Boston, they were saying how the Boston team is so lovable. And I was like, honestly, on social media, they get a lot of hate. But Matt Damon disagreed. He was like, yeah, but this team is really likable. But to your point, Sherrod, clearly there's still some kind of animosity towards Celtics. But it's weird because obviously, like you said, they like Jrue and Derek. So maybe it's specifically that duo that people have hate against.
Yeah, but that's all right.
It's not great.
They'll have their list. I'll have mine. And we'll make like a Venn diagram of our list and just see who's in the middle.
And when the revenge is gotten. But that was also a plug to make sure you read Sherrod's article, watch mine. And of course, follow everything Gary's been doing in Paris, all the reporting he's been doing. And Gary, we need you to get to the bottom of what's going on with Tatum because we're depending on you.
We already know what it is.
I know, but we want evidence.
Tatum's going to take care of the regular season. Don't worry.
Thank you. All right. Well, that's all for this week's episode of the Big 3 NBA podcast. Gary has a lot to do. Again, he's in Paris in the early mornings. You might have to go get a cigarette outside. That's what they do, right? You go smoke a cigarette and go right or something.
Everybody smokes out here.
That's right.
Everybody smokes in Paris. My goodness.
Please don't come back with a smoking cigarette habit.
You can't go anywhere in restaurants without the people next to you smoking.
Come back with a do-rag and a cigarette in his mouth.
Right.
Yeah, I ain't doing smoking. Not cute, but yeah, everybody smokes out here.
Smoking is bad, kids. If you're watching this,
do not smoke. Not a good look.
Not a good look. Or smell.
Exactly.
No smell. You're right.
Well, until next week.
You'll be on that list.
Don't be on that list. That's this week's takeaway, the Big 3 NBA podcast. Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn. I'm Kwani Lunis. Thank you for watching or listening.